Um, these are my thoughts put together by my team. It is gratifying for members of parliament from across the political divide to work together under the Kenya Parliamentary Conservation Climate Change Caucus, putting the interests of our country first to jointly address critical issues of conserving the environment is indeed commendable. This is a reflection of your vision and mission of multi-party approach in building consensus to saving our environment for posterity. About 89% of Kenya's land is arid and semi-arid, covering 29 counties. From the recent drought situation in the country, which has persisted in some parts, we are no longer dealing with the dry spell seasons, but the reality of climate change. Climate change is increasing desertification, majorly due to environmental degradation. That is why the number of counties classified as ASALs considerably rose during the recent nationwide drought, with pockets of aridity being noted in 5 more devolved units. In short, not more than 11% of our land is arable. Rapidly expanding aridity poses a threat to humanity unless the trend is put under control. The Ruto administration is taking various measures to lower the rate of desertification and the broader initiative of combating climate change. One of such ways is the target of planting and growing 15 billion trees by the year 2032. This will increase our forest cover to over 30%, but with a population growth of about 1.9%, we still need resources and threaten the forests again. In addition, Kenya is rapidly developing. Uncontrolled development fuels environmental degradation, thereby reversing our efforts against climate change. There must be parameters to guide our interventions, and such parameters are set in law and relevant regulations. For this reason, today we mark a milestone as members of parliament put aside party differences to engage on climate change, a phenomenon that does not know political affiliation. The launch of your strategic plan this morning for climate action and environmental sustainability and the Kenya Parliamentary Conservation and Climate Change Caucus happened less than 2 months to the African Climate Summit 2023, which will be hosted here in Nairobi in September. Under the theme, Africa's March to Sustainable Economic Transformation and Green Growth will seek to enhance collaboration to sustainable solutions to climate change. This caucus is a statement to our peers in Africa and across the globe. We are taking systematic approaches to solving systematic issues through involvement of key actors, the lawmakers. The Kenya Parliamentary Conservation and Climate Change Caucus will set standards for good governance in responsible natural resource exploitation and management. This is through evidence-based decision-making, more so in legislation and monitoring of the implementation. The high-level engagements will be a major boost to our peers, as many countries are yet to establish legal mechanisms on climate change, which is an emerging and fast-evolving phenomenon. Indeed, Kenya will expand the boundaries and redefine the lasting initiatives of combating climate change, especially in jurisprudence and compensation of damage. President William Ruto and I will support this caucus, whose work will elevate Kenya's profile as a chair of the Committee of African Heads of States on Climate Change. Most importantly, as a public watchdog, Parliament has a mandate of holding state agencies accountable. With pollution being one of the accelerators of climate change, violators of the law must be held to account. As a climate change caucus on conservation, your role is clearly defined. In his commitment to tackling pollution, President William Ruto tasked my office to oversee the functions of Nairobi Rivers Commission, which is mandated to restore the rivers of our capital city and its environs. We will therefore be keen on your work as stakeholders. Furthermore, the launch of this strategic plan will provide a roadmap with clear deliverables to smart action in mitigating climate change. We need climate-smart laws As part of your initial assignment, we expect you to review the current laws, policies, and development frameworks and advise on alignment to environmental sustainability. In budgeting, the Caucus should also make recommendations to the House for environmental friendly actions. If we are to beat climate change, we must go 100% green from the national grid to domestic energy consumption. As one of your key assignments, we count on your input to the Climate Change Amendment Bill 2023, which will open a path to carbon trading since it will incorporate carbon markets in the current Change Act 2016. It is now my pleasure to declare this caucus officially launched. I just want to say thank you very much. I'm very excited to see my former colleagues in the 12th Parliament. And we miss the National Assembly. I must tell you, it's quite lonely here at the top. It's not easy. It's not easy. Looking for government is one thing. Keeping it going and sustaining it is a totally different ballgame. And I want to say that President William Ruto and I are members of Parliament, and we have tremendous respect for elected leaders, and we understand and appreciate their role in development. And no government will succeed without involving elected leaders because they have a mandate from the people. It is for that reason that we have directed our county commissioners and deputy county commissioners to respect, cooperate, and support elected leaders from whatever political formation. We have told our administrators, and I have told them in a very clear language, that it is their responsibility to cultivate a working relationship with an elected leader. Because an elected leader is a permanent feature in that constituency. And if the administrator and the elected leader cannot work together, the elected leader cannot be transferred. It is the administrator who will have to give way. So recently we aligned our officers of the National Government Administration to work with you. And where you feel they are not, please let my office know. It's our policy as a government that the national government officers on the ground must support and respect and work with elected leaders of whatever political formation so that we can make progress. CS, I want to encourage you to work with these members of the National Assembly and the Senate for you to succeed. This program of 15 billion trees, if members of Parliament are involved fully, it will succeed. If we leave them out and we try to do it from Nairobi, we'll fail. So I am encouraged that you are proposing to look at the CDF Act to elevate the monies for environment from 2% to 5%. I think that would really help. And I think there is no elected person in this country who will ever go against these people. People who are elected will just do the right thing. And all of us here know and are persuaded that climate change is real. When we came into office, President William Ruto, in his wisdom, tasked me to coordinate drought mitigation measures and instructed me categorically to make sure that no Kenyan dies from hunger. I was able, with the people we are working with, from the Ministry of Environment, from Ministry of Water, from ASALs, our development partners, the county governments, to mobilize food and water and other interventions. And despite having had the worst drought in Kenya for 40 years, after 5 consecutive failed seasons, not a single Kenyan died from hunger. But I can tell you, it was not easy. I traversed the width and breadth of this country and saw with my own eyes the helplessness of our people. In northern Kenya, in Maasai Land, in Ukambani, 2.5 million heads of cattle died and destroyed livelihoods. Those people have to start life afresh. I saw lactating mothers and children malnourished, and the mothers could not produce milk for them, and supplements had to be obtained to keep them alive. I want to say that exercise for me was the most humiliating exercise in my life. First, as a leader, as a Kenyan, and as a junior elder in the Kikuyu community. Because in my community, an elder does not beg for food. It is very humiliating. I was moving from one office to another begging for food, literally. Kneeling down before Wazungus asking for food, including those we drove away from the forest in 1960s and 50s. The same people we drove away here, I had to beg them for food. It was very humiliating for me. So when I was asked to come here, I said I'll come because we have to deal with the negative effects of climate change, and we must think smart and change the way we do things. We must move away from rain-fed agriculture to irrigation. We must double our efforts in water harvesting, and we must strengthen our resilient measures, especially in the arid and semi-arid areas. We have been to many countries in the Middle East, and we have seen transformation of deserts into serious food-producing countries. And that is the way to go. So I want to say that CS Soipantuya, I want to really acknowledge and tell these members of National Assembly that you have done very well. You have led the ministry with gusto and clarity. And I want to request these members to support you, because the very existence of this republic is threatened by the negative effects of climate change. We really don't have a choice. Every leader must go out of his way to make a contribution. How do you explain for the last 1 week, Nairobi was more colder than Nyeri and Kericho? How do you explain? It has never happened. And now, again, now we are told by the scientists that we are looking at an oncoming El Nino, where we are going to have flash floods, destruction of property, possible loss of lives in high areas. And as a country, what we are saying is it can no longer be business as usual. So when we saw people uprooting trees yesterday, it was very, very, very hurting, because this climate change thing doesn't know political boundaries, does not distinguish between leaders and the ordinary people. All of us will be victims. So I want to urge the leaders here to take this caucus very seriously. And I want to say this is the way to go. As one member said here, the rigors or the standing orders can make conversation sometimes difficult. I think this is a good approach to caucus and agree on what you are going to do before you take it to Parliament as a legislative proposal. I really want to encourage you, and I really want to thank you. As a country, we thank God we have good rains, and we are expecting a bumper harvest. The challenge we have, and which we are working on now, is to enhance our drying capacity to assist the farmers to dry their maize. Because from what we are getting from the scientists who do weather forecasting, is that we're going to have a very wet period, and drying maize will be a big problem. We want to prepare again. We have asked the National Treasury to put funds aside so that once the harvest is ready, we purchase enough maize for our strategic reserve, so that never again, as a country, shall we go to beg other countries to sell us maize. Our Minister for Agriculture, the Honorable Mithika Linturi, has to be to every country to allow to be sold maize, and he was sent back. We could not get maize to buy. We didn't have maize here. It was not available in Zambia. It was not available in Tanzania. It was not available in South Africa. Maize was available in Brazil. which meant that because of the distance, if you buy in Brazil, by the time it gets here, the price will be too high. So from this bumper harvest, as a government, will purchase enough maize for the National Strategic Reserve, so that again, if we have a challenge like we have had with climate change, we have the necessary capacity to intervene on behalf of the people of Kenya. So me, I want to encourage you, I want to ask all of you to support that formula for CDF, get 5% towards the environment, work with our primary schools, work with our secondary schools, again, involve our young people so that they can get some money to keep going. And I'm sure with this kind of support, we'll succeed. So finally, I want to wish you well. I don't want to talk about yesterday because it's a shame that does not deserve my comment. I would like to say, let us stay focused. Let us work for the people who elected us. And yourselves and ourselves have a social contract with the people of Kenya, a 5-year contract, subject for renewal on performance, and subject to termination on non-performance. That is the truth. Najua mimi nasemanga ukweli, watu nasema mimi naongea baya. Hiyo ndio ukweli. President William Ruto and I have every intention to have ours renewed. Yeah, we have every intention because we have nowhere else to go, because we don't know any other job. So nyinyi pia muangalie contract yenu. Yeah, muangalie. The truth of the matter also, some will be renewed, some will be terminated. So make sure yours is not among the ones to be terminated. So please work hard. And I also want, because I'm here as a former member of parliament, also to give you some little advice. Kidogo tu, mimi si mwerefu sana, lakini si mchinga, niko tu hapo 50%. Kuna kakitu kadogo mimi najua. Kadogo tu. If the people who elected you in the first 2 years decide they made a mistake, you cannot reverse that matter. The first 2 years, if they decide they made a mistake, even if you do what in the next 3 years, you cannot change that narrative. The time to convince the people they made the right decision, you have only 1 year. One. Because one is now over. They'll give you another 1 year for them to decide whether they made the right decision or not. That is for you, even for me and the president. And we know that. If the people in the next 1 year decide they made a mistake, that matter is irreversible. Utakuwa unaenda mashinani, unaingia kwa gari, nobody follows you na CV, na harambe. People have just left you alone. And my friend, the day you go to the village and nobody follows you to your car, your goose is cooked. People have already decided you are useless. And they are waiting for the next leader. But when you go, you find people, wanakufuata watu 20, watu 40, usikasirike, you are on the right trajectory. Yeah. People believe in your leadership. People who don't believe in you will never follow you to your car. So wewe usikasirike ati watu wananifuata. My friend, if you go home and nobody turns up at the gate, you should be very worried. Uende kwa boma ulale, usikia kuna hata mtu mmoja kwa gate. Wewe ukuwe na wasiwasi sana. Mambo yako imeisha. So mimi nikienda mahali nakuta watu wamejaa wananingoja, najua tuko rada. Because people believe you can transform their lives. And the time is now. Even our friends on the other side, because we have the two positions, because you are leaders, all of us are leaders. Wewe utajua vile utafanya. Kama utafuata mtu hana ofisi yoyote, he is not responsible to anybody. He is not accountable to anybody. He has no contract with anybody. Umfuate. Uachane na watu wale kuchagua. Na wewe uko na contract with some people who holds you accountable. And that is why I have seen some people on the other side of the political divide have come to work with us so that they keep development going on. But the decision is yours, really, because all of us are grown-ups, everybody is above 18, everybody has an ID. Decision in yako. You just decide what you want and what your future portends and how you want to align your leadership. And of course, you remember, None of us here is employable. Nobody wants to employ a former member of parliament. Uliza huyu alitupwa nje miaka 5. He could not get a job anywhere. Ukienda kusema hiyo mtu ataleta siasa kwa hii kampuni. So this job is the final job. So once ukiipata